My name is Kyle Flaugher, and I'm a realtor in southern Minnesota with Edina Realty. But in the summer of 2020, I was a homeless pregnant line cook in Seattle, Washington. This is how I bought my first home in cash and moved my family from Washington to Minnesota in November of 2020. I was a military brat. I moved to Seattle in 2014, May 5th, 2014. I moved to Seattle and I immediately started saving money. I loved that I could work multiple jobs without traveling from airbase to airbase. I could work multiple jobs in Seattle, walking distance from each other, and I felt like I was making big bucks. So I would eat at work, I would sleep in between shifts, change my shoes, wash my face, act like it was a new day, start another shift at another job. And I saved everything I could. I rode the bus, I didn't buy much, I had roommates, saved as much as I could. And by the time summer of 2020 came around and I was pregnant and had my fiance and I had acquired 2 dogs along the way, I had saved up $50,000. I gave birth to my son in June of 2020, and I thought, oh, well, we'll qualify. We'll be able to use my savings for rent for an apartment. But we didn't qualify because it had to come from our income, not our savings. So I started looking at houses across the US for under 50K. I was desperate. I would have moved to any state at that point that had a decent home, that in a decent location with ideally not too much crime. I would have moved anywhere just so that I could stay home with my son. And I found a house in Minnesota. I found 2 houses in Minnesota. The first one I offered, I believe, 10K under asking price, and it was accepted, and I had an inspection done. And it came back that there was potentially asbestos, there was drain issues, there was a lot of red flags on the inspection report. So then I went back to the other house that I thought wasn't as cute, but it was livable. It had been owned by a family previously. I didn't know any of this when I bought it, but it had been a big family, had lived in it previously. And I had the inspection done, and it came back, yes, there were of course issues. There was loose wallpaper, there was cracking, there was wear and tear everywhere. It had a tiny little kitchen. There was a lot of cons to it, but we offered, it was listed at 50, it had been dropped down from 60, it had been on the market for almost a year. We offered 40, they came back with 46,500, and we ended up closing with 46,500, November 6th of 2020. We packed everything up into a U-Haul trailer and hauled it across the US to Minnesota. A few things that I would have done differently in hindsight, going all the way back to 2014 when I was 20 and moved to Seattle. I should have, knowing that home ownership was a goal of mine, I should have started talking to loan officers immediately. I didn't understand how important credit is, how important loans are when purchasing a home. I thought that people would just save up these massive amounts of money and then buy a home in cash. I was very naive, and I should have been educating myself about loans and how to, and also housing programs that help you into your home, down payment assistance, and these sorts of things, FHA loans. I should have been researching that, knowing that my goal was to own a home eventually. If I had been I could have potentially purchased a home in 2016 when my 2-year work history lined up. My credit was good. I had savings, and I would be sitting on a whole lot of equity right now had I purchased a home in that area around that time. And that whole process and the whole realization of I don't have to have $200K in cash to become a homeowner. That's a huge part of why I am a realtor now, because I have a strong passion for educating people on their opportunities to achieve home ownership, which I strongly feel. I've lived in rentals for many years until 2020, when I was 26. I was almost 27. I was 26, almost 27, and I purchased my home. And I think that I felt slightly drunk from the freedom. I started a million DIY projects, most of which are not finished yet, but they're getting there. I adopted 3 cats to go with my 2 dogs. I had another baby. And sometimes when I'm sitting in my yard, I think I could have ended up in Washington had I known sooner, but I am an opportunist, and it took me 2 years to love my home, and now I love my home, and I wish everybody could also feel that towards their homes, and could also have the opportunity to own their own space, to do what they want with it. I think it's one of the greatest part of life is to have a little bit of land to your name. That's my personal opinion. Not having a landlord over my head telling me what I cannot do, what I can't paint, worrying about deposit and rental history and all that. It was extremely stressful for a person like me. So I became a realtor after experiencing and going through the sale and the purchase of my first home. I became a realtor because I really hope that I can find those people that want to buy and just need the education and the tools. Having said all that, if you are interested in researching your options, it might not be a couple months and you're in your new home. It might not be a year and you're in your new home. It might take a couple years, but I strongly encourage you to reach out and explore your options and be knowledgeable of what is happening on the broader scale of things. Because I was only focused on saving money. That's all I thought there was to it. But there's so much more to it. So don't be afraid to reach out. You won't know until you ask, and we can formulate a plan and get you into your new home.